Hi, Fraser.
Hello.
What are we doing today?
We're doing the bunkers and the birdies.
No, he had to
Yeah.
explain this to me. For all of you
Bunkers.
watching who have no idea what you're talking about, that was me about
It's
5 minutes ago.
it's golf terminology. I feel like, didn't you watch Happy Gilmore or something even when you were
I
growing up?
worked at a golf shop and I have no idea what you're talking about.
What? What? Well, a bunker is a sand trap. It's something to be avoided. It's a trap, It's a trap. It's a
Okay,
trap.
so we don't want
Um,
bunkers. No bunkers
yeah.
here.
And then birdies are above par. And par is, it's like okay. It's what you are aiming for. These are above that.
So kind of like how birds are above ground, like often.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay,
you can think of it like that.
like bunkers below ground. Well, okay. Well, all right.
The
Thank you
sand
for that.
traps and the birdies then. How about that?
Then it's not alliterative.
I know. That's why I went with bunker, because that's what a bunker
Okay,
is
okay, okay, okay.
in golf
And we're
terminology.
doing birdies today.
Yeah, the birdies are up in here.
Yeah.
Who's gonna start though?
Oh, okay, so we're starting with the book you've thought about the most.
Yes.
Okay, well, here's the deal. The book I thought about the most, my favorite fave, and my classic are all the same book. But I'm not
Oh,
going to do that to you.
okay.
So I'll
Yeah.
start with the book that I thought about the second most, and
Okay.
that was Sharon Olds' The Living and the Dead.
The dead and the living.
The Dead and the Living. Just kidding.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah, and got this racy cover here. Can't be
Oh
reading
yeah.
this at my workplace. That's all right. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my third Sharon Olds poetry collection, and I feel like whenever I'm reading her, I am in a soft, comfortable, emotionally tumultuous place.
Yeah. Only lightly censored. And this is the same person that did Stag's Leap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have one more poetry collection of hers that I can read. But there are three parts, I think, or maybe just two parts. But anyways, there's poems for the dead, in which she talks about some imagery, like some imagery that has cycled around of people who have died, and then she's thought about people who have passed in her own life. And I thought it went well with the Susan Sontag book I read on photography. It was kind of reminiscent of that. It's like where you really kind of articulate in words how you're feeling about an image that was really impactful on you. And then the living section was interesting because she is always talking about her parents who were pretty terrible. They were pretty terrible. I mean, and like there's this one thing that I feel is so impactful and I keep thinking about, but she was saying that like her grandfather was an alcoholic and a drunk and he had an apprentice and the apprentice was her father, and then she goes, and my father surpassed the master. And so you're like, oh, and so you're, like just like the way she put her life, and the way she makes observations about her own life is always just kind of gets me in the feels.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And you only
I
have
like it.
one left because that's how many are published, or that's how many you own.
That's how many I own. And my
Oh.
library doesn't have any, and Hoopla doesn't own any. Like, they're not anywhere in my library system. They're
Oh.
nowhere. They're like, I can't find them. So I have to
Mm,
buy them. And because they're poetry books, they tend to be quite expensive.
mm. Maybe
Yeah.
you'll find them secondhand somewhere one day. You'll
One
just
can
be
only hope, you
wandering.
know?
You'll wander Myrtle Beach and find your way into a bookstore, and it'll just be there.
I mean, I stock all the bookstores in town. So I'm like, I
It's
do
a it's
check.
it's in the future.
Okay, okay, in the future.
Yeah.
All right.
I think
What book did you think about the most, sir?
mine is a graphic novel.
Oh, shocker.
Whatever.
Oh, Blue. Yeah, you told me about this.
Yeah,
Tell the audience about it. Oh, Enter the Blue. That's right.
enter the blue. Yes.
Oh, the art is
Um
cool.
yeah, it's amazing. It's incredible. It's so good. It's so good. Okay, so this is a commission, I guess, book from Dave Chisholm, and the label um Blue Note Records, which is really well known for jazz records, uh actually commissioned him to write this, I think, if I have my facts right about this, which is interesting. And this is about a musician right here who's a player who's like feeling like she's not hitting her own, like she's currently doing her masters or something like that, and just like not entering the zone, not feeling it. And mostly it's because she's comparing herself to other people in the class that are just like, they already have a record deal, they feel really great. And the culmination of her feelings come to a head when she tries to play, I think in like some sort of evaluation or something, and she chokes up and she can't play at all, and she ends up quitting. And she has two friends that are very already accomplished musicians, also in jazz, who constantly are like giving her validation, but it doesn't matter because she's continually holding herself to a different standard than they are, even though they're very accomplished. And there's a like bit of a jump in time after her decision where she's relatively fine. She's teaching instead of playing. All these things are going well for her, but then that same friend of hers that was giving her validation before keeps inviting her to come and see him play. And when she does, he has like a seizure or something like that. And there's like this thing that he always talks about, the blue, in which jazz musicians, when they're hitting certain, I don't know, swing time or something, like when they're really in it, it's entering the blue. And she develops this theory that he is in the blue and not just in a coma. And it kind of reconnects her with her trying to play again. And at the same time, it's sort of like a history of Blue Note Records. It's a history of jazz musicians. It's a like education on all of those things. At the same time as this sort of semi-fantastical story of the blue, and it being like a metaphor for being in this like, I don't know, weird space where they're improvising new music but still playing like old school jazz and stuff like that. So it was just incredible, and I love the artwork. It was definitely one of my favorite graphic novels of all time.
I mean, her outfit is banging. Like, let's just be real. That's awesome. Yeah.
It's so interesting, and it's just beautiful.
Ooh, that is pretty. So is there this like theme of blue, like the illustrator chose to illustrate a lot of it in blue as like a play on
and Chisholm
the theme.
Wrote it, drew it, colored it, did everything. He's sort of like an auteur, I guess, of comic books. And I guess he has a couple other things out too. One of them is like an untold story of Bird, like I can't remember his full name, but a famous jazz musician, and like I guess he went missing for a time, and this is like a sort of non-fiction-y thing about where he was and what he was doing, possibly something like that. And it's called Finding the Bird or something like that.
Huh. It goes with your birdie and bunker thing.
Yeah.
I get our thing, I guess, because we're doing it together.
Yeah. Be in on it.
I don't want to. I don't even know what we're doing. Yeah, well, that's cool. I know you've been really into graphic novels this month, or any kind of comic-ness.
Yeah, January is usually the month where I look at all of the top 10 lists of the previous year for comics. Right. And it's just like a nice, light, fluffy start to January where I can get through quite a few things and not have too much pressure. And at the same time, hopefully my library has gotten most of these things in because they've been collected into volumes. And so I can finally read them for free.
Nice. Yeah. I know we've talked about this before, but your library is so much better at collating the graphic novel, like purchasing graphic novels for the library than mine is. Like my library is just awful at it. Yes. So do you want me to move on to my classic, which you already know? I
Yeah.
already talked a lot about it. This is the one that like could fit in all the categories.
Yeah, I assume so, yeah.
So it's Middlemarch
Oh,
by George
what?
Eliot. Yet
Nobody
another
saw this
racy
coming.
cover. I know, I know. You know what? Who knows? Maybe people only show up for these tops and flops and they haven't seen the dedicated review I did of this.
It's
They
true.
haven't
Maybe.
heard me gush about it. Um, yeah, okay, so this is middle. Wait, do we have the same favorite classic?
I don't know, do we? Whoa!
Oh, oh, you have a beautiful edition of it. Gosh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's really nice. I actually have
Beautiful.
the Penguin drop cap one too, but I saw this on like Book Outlet for really cheap, and I was like, this is way nicer.
That's
And I
very
needed
cool.
something to hit free shipping, and I was like, why not? Why not? You know, and then I'll just give the drop cap away, you know? Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And is it paperback? Is that
Yeah, it's
paperback?
paperback, but with
That's
deckled
awesome.
edges. Not my favorite, but yeah.
Not my favorite either. I don't like I don't like the feel of deckled edges. Okay, unpopular opinions over here. Um, I love Middlemarch because it is the greatest novel written in the English language. There we go. So
Boom.
why do you like Middlemarch?
Yeah, this is one that held up unlike the Brothers Karamazov. Oh, shots fired.
I haven't
Yeah,
read The Brothers K, and I have a feeling that I never will.
yeah.
Just gonna say.
I loved everything about it, like absolutely everything. But from the very onset, her command of the English language is what grabbed me. I was just like, okay, she can write. Let's see where this goes. And I was just completely here for the kind of idiosyncratic narration that was going on. It
Mhm.
almost reminded me of like War and Peace, but the interjections were much better. Whereas
Yeah.
Tolstoy, I was like, with her insight into the different characters and sort of use of foreshadowing of her future knowledge of them, it was just really engaging and compelling. Especially she just really knows what you're thinking almost when you're reading it. Like she's like, I bet you don't think this guy's really nice, but guess what? There's some stuff coming that'll maybe change your mind. So keep your opinions to yourself. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between Tolstoy's War and Peace and George Eliot's narrator in Middlemarch, at least in my recollection, is that Tolstoy is very much commenting from his own perspective, critiquing history and critiquing what happened during the Napoleonic, era, as Russia was being invaded by Napoleon. And in this, she's making up her own characters. And then I feel like the narrator is there to keep things balanced. Whereas with him, he was just like, look, I got an opinion about this and I'm going to let you know. And it is from me to you. And you're like, Whereas, like, I thought she did a really good job where I'm like, I don't know exactly how George Eliot thinks. I just know that she created a very sort of snarky narrator in which, but I don't know how she is in real life. Whereas I could feel that through Tolstoy's essays, he was very like opinionated and annoying. Oh my gosh, I
Yes.
gotta stop. Okay, but yeah, so I think that was like the main difference. But yeah, her narrator was funny, like so funny, and her characters, like I really love Dorothea because I mean, not I think Dorothea definitely represents somebody who thinks she knows herself and makes a huge decision based off of that knowledge. And that decision she ends up not knowing herself as well as she thought. And she has to live with the consequences of her decision. And I thought that was just brilliant. Like, that was brilliant. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So,
That
yeah.
was the through line. And then the other
Mhm.
characters sort of paint a much larger picture of what is going on in Middlemarch, with some of
Yeah.
the more savage people being akin to Twitter people, is what I said.
Yeah, that's what you said. I know,
Yeah.
because like every Middlemarch there's just a lot going on and it's got a lot of life to it. And I think you have like six main characters, well, seven. And then, yeah, and then there's like primary characters, secondary characters, and then tertiary characters, and then like even less than that. So
Yeah.
I don't know, really good, really good.
Hmm.
I'm glad
Yeah.
you liked it too.
Yeah. I didn't have any criticisms of it. I was just like, oh, this people say it's the a perfect English novel, and I was like, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I was gonna say that like there was like the one critique that our book club member had was that it seemed like two separate storylines, but then I was thinking about how it might have been satisfying to see everybody together, but the fact that, you know, everybody had their own storyline was kind of part of the purpose. And so I could see why that though they were connected to each other through, I mean, secondary characters like the doctors and lawyers and stuff, or even siblings, but like sometimes you didn't see all of the characters interact with one another, but I like still that didn't bother me.
No.
I really
Yeah.
loved it. I loved every second of it. I thought it was amazing.
Yep.
So yeah. Do you want to do your favorite fave?
Sure. I
Otherwise,
bet
I'll
you
just be
know what it
rambling on
is
and on.
anyway.
Oh, do I? I'm like, am I supposed?
Probably.
I don't know.
Probably. Oh,
Oh yeah.
it's
Oh my gosh.
excellent. Yeah, this was
Yeah.
just
I heard about this a
incredible.
lot.
Hey.
No,
Yeah.
not. I mean, I heard about it through a long period of time.
Oh, okay. I thought you would like
Uh-huh.
Fraser wouldn't shut up about
No,
it.
no. I was like, no, I just heard about it for months.
Yeah. So yeah, this book is it starts off basically like Contact, like a first contact story, possibly anyway. Like they get a signal from somewhere out in the galaxy. I can't remember which place it's from, and they believe it's extraterrestrial. They didn't get a full capture of it because of how the planets were aligned or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It got cut off after a little while, and so people are all trying to figure this out, what the signal could be. um, and we follow characters in two separate regions because at the same time, or close to it anyway, there's also an astronaut on the moon, and something impacts the moon, and she is the only person there. She was on like some science expedition, and kind of like waiting for relief when this big thing happens, and she's very excited. She goes out to the crater to investigate. And so you're trying to see like, is this a first contact story or not?
Mm-hmm.
And we get her story as well as the main character on Earth, who is like got a he's very like cerebral and brainy, and he's got like OCD and some other quirks that makes him very keen on finding pattern recognition. That's like his, I don't know, confluence in his brain, and he's constantly trying to figure out this signal. And it is just like the most interesting and imaginative way of coming through the process of this signal and how he tries to investigate it. There's like a use of AR technology, augmented reality technology with through VR headsets, in which he's trying to like visualize it as well, which is just not something that's seen much in sci-fi books and is so underutilized, even though people are using Oculus Rifts at home to game all the time. And yeah, it's really hard to talk about without spoilers, but it was just phenomenal. And what makes it even better is that Rian Hughes is a layout artist in his professional life, I believe, and so the book is just like immaculately unconventionally put together. There are snippets of mixed media things where people are
Mm-hmm.
reporting on the signal, and that has a different font and layout. He has different columns for newspapers, things like 2 column goes into. There's probably like 18 to 20 different profiles that he utilizes in this, as well as, I don't know, probably like 80 fonts or something. And
Mm.
so the communication, like the form meets function, and what he's saying about the contextualization of like an alien signal and its interpretation is just like perfectly met. And though it is chunky, it's like almost 1,000 pages. It was just completely riveting. Like just yeah, it's a phenomenal book. Like one of my favorite books of all time. Oh yes. And I had that
Yeah.
the same month as Middlemarch. Same month.
I'm not
Same
gonna
month.
ask which one you like better because there's only one right answer. Okay. only one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of writing, he's definitely not George Eliot, right? But
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad you can admit that.
okay. Yeah.
Well, my favorite fave is one that you recommended, and I really liked it. Do you know what it is?
No, I
You
don't think
recommended
so.
it, and finally I got around to reading it.
Yeah, but I
Only
recommended a few things
well, and actually it was a top not long ago. A top book of yours.
of my. I don't know what is it.
Mhm. The Many Deaths of Layla Starr.
Oh yeah, that you
Yeah,
liked it that much? I didn't realize you liked it
yeah,
that much.
yeah, by Ram V and Filipe Indra. Indra. I don't know how to. The color artist is Inês Amaro. I'll leave everything linked down below, or at least the book, if I remember, because I do. Yeah, I really liked it. I was like thinking through. I was thinking through, and like, especially compared to the other reads I liked, there's something really like unconventional about it, I would say. And it's about like it's death personified as a human who, well, at first she's like this god, like almost like a Greek god. She's death. And they're like, we don't need you anymore. So she gets fired from her job and she gets sent down to Earth into a human body. And then she lives her life kind of following the path of the guy who got her fired, who in the book is named Darius and or Darius. Anyways, and it was just different. I think you mentioned that it was like the perfection of Eastern writing, like or like Eastern philosophy. Like not everything is tied up perfectly, but I think at the core of it, the message was that of mercy and our lives don't always go the way that we think, and like for all the characters or for the two main characters. And I don't know, but I think about the art in it kind of a lot. I think about it because it was so cool. It was so cool.
Yeah.
I read it on my iPad, which is why I don't have the book, but I was like, I bet you a physical copy would be actually really cool.
Yeah, I really want to get the oversized edition that's coming out in March. It's a little pricey though, so I'm gonna wait, see if it drops at some time. But yeah, the artwork and especially the color palette was just like
Color palette
so
is gorgeous.
unusual and
Hmm.
like pop. It really pops. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I just thought it was so nice to read a comic book that wasn't about mostly like physical conflicts or something like that, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
Oh, go ahead.
different in like basically every way from the things that I had been reading. And I had been reading a bit in December. Like there was already like a couple top 10 lists of comic books, so I had picked up some, but not nearly as many were out. And that's where I got that Layla Starr one. It was on one of the top 10 lists.
Yeah, I think well, I'm glad because I picked it up because of you, but I also realized I think through like I read Heartstopper on my iPad, which I realized I could read like for a long period of time on my iPad. But Layla Starr I read through my library app like Hoopla, which was different than Hearts. Anyways, I realized that I really like reading comics on my iPad. Like I really
Yeah.
like it. Like that's what I prefer, I think. Even over the physical copy, which is helpful because physical copies of graphic novels are so expensive sometimes. And so sometimes a digital copy is a little bit more economically, like understandable for the cost, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Once, especially these days, most comics have been um, made digitally already. And so
mm.
sometimes I think they look even better in that format. And you don't have like, the annoyance of like gutter and stuff to look
Ah,
at.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I really enjoy comics digitally as well.
Right. Well, like my plan was to read Bone by Jess Smith, which we read together, which is a 1,300 page graphic novel. And like I had thought about reading it physically, but I had such a good experience with Layla Starr that I ended up buying the digital copy and just read it that way, and it was so much better. It was so much better. So
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, well,
cool.
that's it. That's it from us. Let us know your tops in the comments down below.
Yeah, not the
Yeah.
flops.
not the
or
flops.
the bunkers.
Let us know your birdies, the ones that chirp to you.
Yeah. Yes.
Let us know in the comments down below. Otherwise, yeah, that's it from us, right? Oh, and go watch the flops, the bunkers.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
At Fraser's channel. Of course. Yes. Well, they're gonna probably start on your channel and then meander over here anyways. Most people are like, I like your flops better. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay.
Well, they probably like both, but they probably like seeing us all saucy or something.
Oh, I know. We get kind of spicy with our flops. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.